How many tears have you had on this couch?
It's usually from these eyes.
We did leave, and it was 3 hours later. We got off the plane. I got back home and we got the call. I acted out. I cheated on my partner. I didn't tell anyone. I went on this destructive rampage, and in terms of grieving, I didn't properly grieve until about 7 years later.
You probably weren't ready for that.
I was so not ready. I drank a lot throughout the whole thing, which is something that I've only admitted recently, but to properly remember and grieve came years later through this burpee movement and challenge where I was able to talk and connect with others that were going through the same thing.
Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Good Grief. We got a special episode here today.
Yes, we do.
We've got our good friend Tilli with us. What's up? How you doing?
How you going, guys? I'm so excited to be here. I've been telling all my friends all week that I'm coming. And I just thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for having me here today.
Oh,
Thank
we're
you.
honoured.
I'm just stoked to hang out again.
Yeah, I know. How long has it been? Well, November.
Yeah.
3 months?
3 months.
And for us, that's going to be an easy date to remember because it's like, when do we meet? It was Movember.
November.
For people who don't know, do you want to explain Movember just real quick? We'll get into it a bit later. For anyone
Is
that
it
doesn't
Aussie
know.
or worldwide? I don't even know.
It started in Melbourne, in
Okay.
Fitzroy.
Cool.
It was actually, last year was the 20th anniversary of the foundation of Movember.
Oh.
And
a
it was
long time.
it was started by two guys at a pub in Fitzroy in Melbourne, and they were talking about mental health around men, how growing moustaches, and it started off with 30 guys. Let's grow a moustache and let's talk
Wow.
about mental health. And then 20 years later, it's one of the biggest men's mental health and cancer awareness foundations in the entire world.
So cool.
Crazy, huh?
So that's where we met.
That's where we met.
It was at
There
a
you go.
brewery,
Was it a brewery?
which is a pretty cool place to meet people. You
Yeah,
always
that-
meet someone cool there.
That was amazing. I'd never been there either, so
Oh,
it's pretty incredible.
We locked eyes, didn't we? We locked eyes with Tilly, and it was just like, we're going to be friends.
Yes, yes.
Let's chat
Very, very
after.
special.
Yeah, yeah.
so fun backstory. We used to work a kilometre away from Volta, the
Get
brewery.
out.
So we'd finish the week and just wander down there to
To the
It was your
watering
local,
hole.
Yep.
to
Yeah.
your local.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
That's pretty cool,
debrief
local.
the week and all
Yeah.
the things. So
Fantastic.
so that was November. So it's now February, couple of months. This is only the second time we've hung out.
I know, but it feels like I've
But
known you
we've
for
been-
years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yay.
If people are familiar with Insta Besties, it's like we just stalk and,
That's-
support.
That's the beauty of social media too. I think that's one of the best things that comes out of it if you nurture it and use it correctly is the connections that you create. It's just so
Totally.
powerful. It's the best.
Yeah.
So I want to intro you because today.
Most people don't like to do them themselves.
Well, I prefer someone. to
Yeah.
say good
To
things
blow
about
my
me.
horn. Yeah.
And one of the major things that stood out when I think Jai was interested in introing you was that you're Brisbane's number one
Oh my
personal
God, don't you
trainer.
dare. Don't you dare.
And,
As she is.
What is voted by the Courier Mail because it's such a...
and
We won't go there, no.
I'd go as
It was
far
awesome.
as to say Queensland's
No.
number one personal trainer.
Oh,
So-
that was funny when he said that. That was great. That was really great. No, thank you guys.
But you are phenomenal. Not that we've been
Oh.
trained by you, but sort of vicariously, you ran a challenge last year, and you've done that for a few years now. The burpee challenge,
The burpee challenge. Yes.
150 burpees a day.
Oh,
And some, I reckon. Hey.
it was way more than that. I think and we'll get into obviously that story later, but that's essentially
Death.
well
by fitness.
I would rather I don't know. Like it got to a point where it just became a part of my daily life is just doing burpees, waking up and being like, cool, this is what I've got to do. It became habitual, but my shoulders couldn't handle it anymore and they are crunchy now. So I do not recommend it at
Okay.
all. But yes, we'll go into it. But that's
Yeah.
essentially how we met. And that's
Totally.
essentially how I've gotten to a point now where I'm talking about my story and how that came about and how burpees became a huge part of that.
Is burpee like a global term? I'm just like
It is.
I think
It
so,
is.
yeah.
Probably the most hated exercise in the
Yeah.
fitness industry.
Right.
A lot of people hate it.
Worldwide.
Yeah.
Reason why I picked it.
Yeah.
Worldwide. Everyone would
Cool.
know what a burpee is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So everyone listening, if you feel motivated by the end of this call, this podcast,
Hit me up. I'll tell you not to do it.
or maybe there'll be a call to action from Tilly for some burpees.
Oh, maybe. Do I have to do
But-
it again?
You're phenomenal at your craft. Just following you on Insta, and like, I'm going to drop everything below for people to click on and follow.
Oh.
If people just want to be motivated, loved through their phone, you are the go-to, like, PT, just boss lady, crushing it.
That really means a lot.
And you've never even trained us.
No.
like, you know.
I think that's I think in the fitness industry there are so many things that can be so scary and so off-putting, and I think I remember saying to my husband, when we started getting a bit of traction, is that I never wanted my page just to be solely fitness. I think there's so many people out there that see it and they're like, that's cool, but I'll never be able to do that. And so everything that I do that I'd like to put out there, to the Instagram community is has to be inspirational and relatable and encouraging.
Super relatable.
Yeah.
So we were watching your mum run.
My mum runs.
Yes.
Oh, so funny you're talking about that.
So
Okay.
Tilly has 2 girls and just wasn't feeling it on the weekend, but you'd made a date. Is that right? You'd made a date with a friend and you got up and you went, you know what? I got to stick to this.
I'm going to do it. No, it was one of my goals for this year. So while I may be a PT, I'm more of a strength, resistance, Pilates-based personal trainer. I train everything. I've trained so many of my clients to do, triathlons and marathons. I know how to train it. But for me personally, I've never enjoyed running over short distances. I've always been a 100-meter runner, like short bursts, boom, done. Loved it. Get me running over 200 meters, and for me, it's a mind game. It's a real mind game. I've always struggled. So this year I was like, this is something that I'm going to put on my radar, and I'm going to give it a red hot crack.
Because I think anyone could just look at you and go, oh, she can run.
100.
She's strong.
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
fit.
And funny you say that. That's another reason why I was so scared to put it out there into the world, is because there would be that expectation within the community. Let's just say if I joined a running group, oh, Tilly will be able to keep up. No, I'm at the back with the newbie who's never run before, and we are there
you
supporting
keeping them
each
company.
other. Oh, it was actually funny. My first one ever was that weekend where it was just raining nonstop. And I said to the guy that was running the run club, I was like, at
Are we still
5:30,
going?
I was like, is it still on? He
It's
goes,
the
yeah,
worst
we'll
question.
be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. And I
bit of
was like,
water?
oh,
Yeah.
Anyway, I got there. It was pouring and it didn't let up. We were saturated before we even started, and I ended up running 5K.
That's amazing.
And I ran most of the time. I walked a lot. I walked a bit of it as well. I was running with this girl who was telling me why she was doing running, and she said that she'd never done anything challenging in her life. She'd never been out of her comfort zone. I just said, how old are you? And she goes, 25. I was like, oh my God, just a baby. You're just a baby. But it was really, I was like, that hit me. I was like, yeah, fantastic. And go for it. And we just encouraged each other. We were the last to finish, and we had the best time.
Is that one of the
best
best
time?
Is that one of the best memories you've got of running? Like,
It's like the only memory. I'm kidding. Yes, in terms of encouragement and support, yeah. Because running doesn't have to be an alone thing. And I think that's why.
and it doesn't have to be fast.
Well, that's why there's this huge resurgence of run clubs at the moment. You don't need to run by yourself. Running together as a community that can start conversations. And that's where that whole Movember challenge came about, is how can we start a conversation around movement, around a challenge? You say something that you wanted to do, and being an active member in the fitness industry and being a part of the Lululemon community, which works hand in hand with Movember as a partner. That's I was just like, well, I can't run. I'm not going to run. This was, 3.5 years ago now when this all started. I was like, I'll do burpees. Everyone hates them. They suck.
So we're in agreement. So why not?
They're horrible.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
I'm never going to say they're awesome. I'm pretty good at them now. That doesn't mean I enjoy them. But yes, I'm digressing. But that's
all right.
Yeah.
So you brought it up. You
Yes.
are an ambassador of Lululemon.
I am.
And
yes.
Movember.
And Movember.
Which is pretty cool.
Yes.
So today we're going to be talking about your journey with your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking forward to getting to know him a whole bunch more. But should we just pull it back? Give us an idea about what family's like, what your family looks like, how life runs, before we jump into that.
Sounds awesome. How many tears have you had on this couch?
Oh, heaps.
Oh, so
And it's usually from these eyes.
Yes.
We watched Free Willy on the weekend.
Yeah.
And Kaylee
Does
was
that hold
crying.
up? I haven't seen
Well,
that since.
okay.
Does it?
Oh my gosh.
Well-
It does?
Actually, I said to Ryan, okay, so what do we do if this is like really lame? Like, I haven't seen this in probably 25 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it did?
Well, because
Yeah.
we watched Blackfish,
And-
the documentary about orcas
Yes,
first,
so
which
that's
is on
what
Netflix.
triggered.
Have you seen that?
No.
That's
Okay,
phenomenal.
I have
Because
to
I
watch that, okay.
love orcas. I've always just had a fascination.
Yeah, 100%.
And then
They're beautiful and
their-
magnificent.
and their story
Yeah.
with SeaWorld sucks.
Yeah.
And so the documentary, then we were like, I wonder if the movie was like a rebuttal or like a protest about.
Did it have an underlying meaning since
Well,
we watched it when we were younger? Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
still in the middle of that. We're going
Really?
to. Yeah,
We're
deep
going
into it.
to.
So,
Yeah.
so next weekend will be Free Willy 2.
Oh, I'm totally going to watch Free Willy. Nah, Free Willy 2 is not safe.
Anyway, so I didn't cry until like almost the credits. Okay, so just give me some credit
Yeah.
there. Like,
Yeah.
I
No,
want the
it was
whole
that
did
song.
well.
It was the Michael
You did
Jackson
well.
song.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
It's that
yeah.
credit song. That's
How
what
do
I'm.
you remember that?
No, I've always remembered that. When
MJ.
that's- yeah.
Oh,
Someone I wish was still
Yeah.
alive, Michael Jackson.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story, but yeah,
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
It's actually, do you know, funny, I actually wore
I
this
wanted
t-shirt
to ask
for a
you.
reason
Oh my
today.
gosh. Okay, tell us what it says
It says, every song reminds me of you.
and where did it come from?
Do you know what? I actually just saw it. I just saw it online. And you just Google oversized tee. Anyway, I Googled that. It was the first one that came up. I read it, and I don't wear a lot of logoed tees. I was like, that's it. That was meant to be.
That's awesome.
It's just that, songs just are such a trigger for memories and
Yeah.
feeling, and it's such a huge part of my life. And it's actually something that always triggers me with music in remembering my dad.
Oh, totally.
Always, all the time. So Michael Jackson's a big one.
Yep.
Billy Joel's a big one. All of those. Yeah, those. Yeah. Anyway, it's funny that you picked that
Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, well, that's a whole nother conversation.
So cool.
We could be here all
I know,
afternoon.
I know.
I said it would only be a 4-hour podcast.
Yeah, totally.
Tell us about your
okay.
family.
My family. Look, I am 37 years old. I have been married to my beautiful husband for 6 years.
Come on,
6
that's
years.
awesome.
Yeah, this year we've been together 11 years. And we've got two beautiful little girls, 4 and 6, Nora and Marlo, and they are just light of our lives. Girls are the best. Girls are
Yes.
the best. You're going to be so excited.
We can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I am a personal trainer, and it's funny. COVID can have so many positive, lot of negative stories. Our story started very, very negative with COVID. Obviously, my husband lost his job when I was working in gyms. I was a head coach at the time. We just had our second daughter, and obviously gyms shut down. We both lost our jobs pretty much. And we didn't know what we were going to do. Obviously with the restrictions and everything that came with that, I could still train people. We could still train outside, socially distanced. So within my little area, all my clients were messaging me saying, Tilly, can we still train? Can you come over? And that's how my personal training business started.
Right.
Was through COVID. So I just used to go over to people's places. We'd meet in the park, we'd train, and it went from one couple to 3 couples to 7 couples. And then as the restrictions started to ease, I could travel, further around Brisbane. I used to travel to like 7 different suburbs within a day, and it was getting ridiculous, but I loved it. I loved driving, and I loved being with people, and it was amazing how it grew. And then a friend reached out to me, who goes, Till, I've got a gym, it's just a private gym with some other PTs, would you like to come and train? And I was like, yes, that would be amazing. So I brought my whole business. I was so scared. I'm like, I'm going to lose all my clients, they're never going to travel to me. They all traveled to me, and
so good.
We grew into this business where it's, I'm pretty much the full-time worker. My husband works from home, but he's a full-time dad to our girls.
Oh,
and it's changed our complete family landscape. Again, like I've sort of steered down another path, but that's essentially where we're at right now. I'm the working mum and my husband's stay-at-home dad. And it's amazing, and it works for us really, really well.
So cool.
You make a great team.
Yeah, well, I was just talking to you about that earlier. I was like, how do you guys go working together and living together, and being married? And it's, we've had our ups and downs, but we're really finding our groove now. It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you've just recently launched your app?
I've just recently launched my own fitness app, which has been incredible. We soft launched it at the beginning of December last year, and we've got over 250 people subscribe to it now, and we haven't done any marketing. It blows my mind, because how are we going to make more money if I don't have any more time? And that we were just like, cool, we'll go online. And it's just Dimmy and I working together. He films it and edits it. I do all the workouts, and it's literally just the two of us. And that's where we're at right now. And we just started it. Yeah.
And sorry to throw you under here, but didn't you do a full session and then realize it wasn't recording recently?
Did you?
2. I went through a session and a half, almost 2 workouts. And one of the camera wasn't working, because we got 2 cameras. So one of them was working, the other one wasn't. And the microphone was off. Imagine going through this whole podcast and you couldn't even hear us.
I've done it so many times. So I had a little chuckle.
And we had 2 hours remaining left on the studio hire. So we just had to be like, let's do it. Let's just do it.
The voice is going. The body's going.
Yes.
Take some electrolytes.
I know. Just come on, get it done. Sorry, I won't swear. Look, my husband, he's a photographer and videographer. His background is marketing, and so we've kind of
it works.
Yeah, look, we always said to each other from the very beginning, working with family doesn't work. He worked for his family for a long time, and it didn't end well. It took a long time to repair and mend, and it's really harmonious now for them, which is fantastic. But we were very hesitant with working together. But financially, to hire people to film and edit,
it's a lot.
It's huge. Yeah. It's huge. So we gave it a crack.
Good on you guys.
And we're navigating and it's working. Yeah.
Yeah, so excited for it. So TCF is the app.
TCF, yep. Tilli Conias Fitness. Yep. I know, super original. But look, it's me. I'm my brand. And
has anyone ever said to you, "Thank Conias, it's Friday"?
I have not heard that. Bravo. I thought I heard them all, but no.
I was just thinking, like, what a sign off once you've smashed the week.
It's so good. Yeah, normally I say I'm really proud of you and well done and have the best day, but that's a good one. I might have to use that.
That one for free.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks.
Do you have anyone overseas?
Yes, I do. We've got people Singapore, UK, Dubai.
How cool. I wanted to be a PT in Dubai when I was training. That was like
to be a PT in Dubai would be something else.
Like to one of the sultans or something, you know?
Oh my goodness. Do you know, funny you say that, when we was doing the burpee challenge, I was looking up the Guinness World Records of how many burpees were done in a certain period of time, like how
That's
many
cool.
were done. Yeah, and the record is held by a police officer in Dubai.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Don't ask me how many it was, but it was a lot. And I think they got the entire
Surely
police force from
surely
Dubai to
aircon.
do them. It was out of control. I was
right.
like, yeah, I'm not going to beat that.
Surely-
anyway.
surely
I can't
indoors-
compete with that.
Indoors and aircon, surely not outside in Dubai.
Oh, yeah. It'd have
I
to
don't know
be.
where it was, but it was the most amount of people that did it in a certain period of time, and
You
it
can
was the
totally-
Dubai police
you can beat
force.
that.
It would have to have been inside. No, I couldn't. I think it ended up being like 7,000
that is a
people
lot.
doing burpees.
Not out of the question, though.
consecutively.
Not out of the
Look, you
question.
never know. No, I don't. Do you reckon
of
I could
Brisbane?
find 7,000 people
Well,
to
look,
do them?
you're connected with Lululemon.
Who would want to do
Like
that?
I reckon
People
it's
just want to
on.
be a part
For
of
a
things.
cause, and
though.
that's the thing. It's being a part of something.
Yeah.
How many did they do? Sorry.
I think it was over 7,000. That's
No.
just.
How many burpees did they do? Like each?
I don't know. Like as I
'Cause it
said,
can't
I
have been
don't.
that
Nay
many.
testing me.
Yeah.
No, it was a lot.
Okay.
It was a lot.
Those Dubai policemen
There you go.
and women.
We'll just have to look it up.
Yeah. We will actually. That I'm going to do that straight after this.
All right. So
It's gonna
people,
bug me. Yeah.
people have probably got burpee trauma and all sorts. So we'll cool it
Yeah,
on the
right?
burpees
Yeah.
for a moment. But introduce us to your dad.
Yeah, tell us about your dad.
Ah, my dad. It's so funny. You can go. That's the thing. When you lose someone, you can go for so long without getting emotional about it, and the moment you lock in on it, that's when everything just comes to the surface. So they'll probably come out soon. My dad. Everyone.
What's his name?
Jeff with a J.
It's important for Jeff.
yeah.
It is.
It
Oh,
is.
you agree? There is a thing.
It's
It's either a
important.
G or a G or a J. So my dad, Jeff, my mum always said, I've got my personality from my dad and I look like my mum. So I've always been told that. And that's something that I'll always take with me. I am my dad. I'm a dad's girl, very big daddy's girl. And we lost him way too young. He was 67 years old. He, through just a routine check at the doctors, they found a small tumor on his kidney. So he went in to get that removed. And through that, they found that he had prostate cancer. And it was pretty advanced. He didn't want to go down the chemotherapy route, so he went to radiation therapy. And back then, we're talking, when did he get diagnosed? It would have been 20 years ago.
Okay. 2003.
So it was like a 10-year
So he was in
journey.
remission for a long time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he had it for a long time. And in that time, like my parents had separated, and then he was diagnosed. So if you're talking about my childhood with my dad, like he was the coolest dad, the life of the party. He was the dad that everyone was like, yeah, I want my dad to be like him.
Yeah.
He was at
So
every
cool.
sporting event that I did. He was so encouraging, so supportive, and just so much fun. And then, as you get older, you start to notice things. And, when my parents separated, it was really hard. And how old was I? I was in year 11.
So they separated before he was diagnosed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was in year 11 and
It's a crucial time.
it really is. And I think in those years, when you're that age, you take sides.
Right.
And it's something that I notice a lot more now when I see it, looking in now, it can be so easy to take sides.
It'd be hard not to.
It'd
Yeah.
be hard not to. So, and I was under my mother's wing at that point, and I took her side. And there was a year that I didn't talk to my dad, and that's something that I will forever regret. Can't undo it. And it's like a year that I lost with him when he was here, and so rebuilding my relationship with him, there's a lot of it that I've actually forgotten. Actually talking to you about this now, it's like I'm drawing blanks with some things, and I think that's what you instinctively try and block out from your mind. Look, we connected again, and we became close. My dad moved away when he went into remission. He just wanted a more peaceful lifestyle, wanted to live by the beach. We lived in Adelaide. Sorry, I should say I'm from Adelaide originally. So he moved to New South Wales, moved to the beach, and I'll never forget getting the call. And this is fast forward, quite a few years down the track. I'll never forget getting the call from his partner saying, "Tilly, you need to get here. Your dad's not well." And I was like, "What do you mean not well?" And she just goes, "You need to get here. They've given him a week, 2 weeks max."
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was just, how old was I? 27. I was
So how often did you get to
27.
see him once he moved?
I got to see him probably every 6 months, but we would always talk on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably one of the things that I found so difficult after he passed, is not being able to hear his voice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It wasn't a matter of being with him. It was a matter of hearing his voice. And I think a lot of people would be able to relate to this. Afterwards, I would just always call just to hear his voicemail.
Yes.
Right?
That was the same
And
to
I
me.
think
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
And then one day,
Got shut off.
it got
Yeah.
shut off.
It just happened to
Oh
us recently.
my God.
Oh,
I was like,
seriously.
how do I get a copy of that? How can I
Yeah.
keep it? I couldn't. I wish I knew that, and I would have recorded
know.
it and just to have it, because it was just the happiest greeting ever, and I couldn't hear that anymore. That's actually the first time I have said that in a long time.
Yeah, wow.
Actually. Yeah, wow.
And so 10 years, so it's coming up to 10 years, you said, hey.
Yeah, so it was 2013 we lost him.
Yeah.
So obviously this will be the 11th
11.
Oh,
year.
yes, sorry.
11th year. Yeah.
So back then, I don't know if iPhones were around, you wouldn't have been able
It
to.
was.
Yeah,
They were.
So
but I didn't know
yeah,
that.
you
I
wouldn't
was.
have thought
I
to
didn't
get
know
footage of
no,
him, would you?
No, I didn't know that you could. Like, I didn't know that I needed to record that message, or that numbers are unsold if they're not used, and everything like that. It's crazy. I think that was one of you'll never forget that final week.
Yes.
And it's always a memory that you're like, I don't want to remember. I can't forget it. You want to remember
But
the
you want
good,
to remember everything at the same time.
everything. Yeah, exactly. But you also don't want it to overshadow all the beautiful memories you had of when they looked the way you remember for so long, not when they were sick.
So you got the call, you went there.
I went there. My partner at the time, who was not Dimitri, my husband, he was actually he was older than me. He was amazing. He was so supportive. And he held my hand through the whole thing. It was wonderful. My dad actually got to meet him. So it was nice to know that even though my dad didn't get to meet my husband, Dimitri, that he knew that I was safe. And, that always brings me a lot of joy. It was the hardest week of my life. As a 27-year-old, I have a younger brother. He's 2 years younger than me. And, he didn't really have a father figure when my dad left. He didn't know how to navigate that.
Was he similar in the sense that he took mum's side, or?
He didn't know whose side to take. Imagine being, how old was I? In year 11, he was in year 9.
So
a
it's like
teenage
15.
boy, exactly,
So,
14, 15 years old, living
Too
with
young to
two
make
headstrong
sense.
women who have like a certain way that they, like power to the girls. And he was trying to navigate his teenage years, and a lot of it was being overlooked. Like there was a lot that he shut off. He didn't do a lot of talking. He just hung out with his friends. He didn't want to talk about it. And that was so hard. That was so hard. In hindsight, that would have been so hard for him.
Yeah.
I think that week where we both came together with Dad to see that we kind of been estranged for quite many years because I moved away, and that week brought us back together.
You and your brother. Yeah.
Me and my brother, big
Yeah,
time.
wow.
It was the first time I've seen him properly cry in I don't know how long.
Yeah.
I don't know how long. But yeah, that was such a hard week. I think looking after your father, who essentially they go back to memories of years prior. You know, I would go and talk to my dad, and he would talk to me like I was 13, and he was taking me to, you know, running practice. He was like, Tilly, you're not listening to your coach. You need to be running this. We need to work on that. You need to make sure you do that. So I want you to think about it.
He was actually saying these things.
He was saying these things to me. And then he would try and go fishing. He would just try and go fishing in bed. And it was something that he loved doing. And then we used to do with him all the time. It's actually crazy talking about this. And you hear stories of when people, you know, are right at the end and they think about memories that were obviously so important, or a pivotal point, or something that's just ingrained in them, and that it just keeps coming back. So he was going back to me in my teenage years. He was talking to Angus like they were going fishing, and then he would get unbelievably violent and crazy and, you know, try and hit us and everything like that. It was the most crazy experience. It was like he was a child again, and we were looking after him.
I saw similar things with my grandfather going through cancer, and I don't know if they got levels wrong with, you know, not drugs, but his body levels, and that was their explanation. But I saw similar things, and he verbalized things that he'd never said ever, like about my dad and all these things, because my dad had died, and we're going, where is this coming from? And then the next minute, the violent, like, craziness.
Outbursts.
Yeah. But the things that were coming out were just so real and so deep.
And it's things that you forget about. Because my partner was like, what is he talking about? And I was like, I think he's actually talking to me. Like, we're going to running practice, and we're competing in a sports carnival. And it's just crazy. And I remember my dad's partner saying to me, Tilly, he would never want you to see him like this. And something that from my experience, that I always believe is when someone is at the end, they're either waiting for someone to arrive or someone to leave. And my dad was holding on. He was holding on. And the nurses were just absolutely incredible. And one of them came up to me and just said, I think he's waiting for you to leave. And so my brother and I, we did leave. And it was 3 hours later, we got off the plane. I got back home and we got the call, and they said, he's passed in his sleep. And yeah, she just goes, he was waiting. He didn't want you to see that. And I remember I was sitting in my car at the time because I didn't know what to do. So I just went for a drive. And I did that a lot. I just drove or I walked. And I just sat in my car, and I didn't even cry. I didn't even know what to do. I actually didn't even remember the whole conversation. But I just sat there and I was like, wow, what do you do now? I think I then found out that, you know, my dad didn't want to be buried. He didn't want to be cremated. He donated his body to science. And he was a maths professor. Like, he was, you know, he was an intellectual. So it was something where he wanted to help.
Yeah, the future generations.
Exactly.
Had you had any of those chats prior?
No. Yeah. That was another thing. To talk about that and navigate that, I'm sure it's very different. Actually, it is very different now. I know that. But as a 27-year-old who I had no idea how that all worked, how to arrange a funeral. He didn't even want one. And we didn't have one.
Right. So what ended up happening? What'd you do?
Do you know what we wanted to, and this is the thing, and this actually sounds so bad. He didn't want anything. He didn't want anything. We wanted to do like a memorial bench, on the beach in front of where he used to live. But the council said no to that. So we're just like, how do we do
my gosh.
this? How do we do this? And it's something where I know he didn't like fuss and he didn't want any of that. And it's really, this sounds shocking to say out loud. No one's ever asked this. I think it's something where every year on his birthday, I will spend a lot of time just thinking about all the good things, all of the positives. There were so many negatives, and it's something that, there were so many at the end, and I'm like, I don't want to think about that. So my brother and I actually talk a lot about the positives,
Yeah, that's great.
about what we remember. He wouldn't want a plaque. He wouldn't want a stone or anything like that. He would just want to be talked about in the way that he was meant to be remembered. And that's something, and that might not resonate with a lot of you, but I feel it would for some.
Oh yeah.
I just think holding on to a memory and talking about it, I don't want to forget him
Totally.
ever.
Yeah.
And I want to remember I always want to remember the good.
There's-
The
Wow.
last time I've spoken about
Yeah,
that.
It's massive.
That final
we
week.
don't, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about your brother at that age when your parents separated. That's a grief in itself for both
Totally.
of
To
you.
pack up a house and to go
Yeah.
through all the
We
It's
never
weird.
experienced that, and
I did.
not divorce.
No, packing
Yeah.
up a house.
Yes.
Oh,
Sorry.
after
Yeah,
of
yeah.
a
Your mum's still in your house.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we-
Packing up
Yeah.
a house.
yeah.
But I was more meaning
Separating stuff.
separation.
yes.
Like
Yeah.
that's not talked about, and that just gets buried, and then you lose your dad, and it's like, well, I haven't even worked through the separation, and now I'm here trying to deal with this.
100%.
We're not prepared for it. We're just not, and so no wonder you haven't spoken about it.
I haven't.
All the-
I think when you're talking about it like this, you've got to. There's a barrier. There's a wall that you build up. I think, with my parents separating while I was so young, you've got to be able to hold your own.
Totally, you grow up pretty quick.
100%. I ended up being the communicator between my parents for so many years. And then I put my foot down. I was like, you two can talk to each other. Like, you don't have to
Yeah.
talk through me.
Yeah,
I think that's something I'd never want to do. I'd never want to talk through my kids to my husband. It's like,
Sure.
I'm going to talk to you and I'm going to talk to you.
Yeah.
And they don't need to take this on. And in terms of grieving after my father, I think that's something that I spoke about when I met you in November last year, is that I didn't properly grieve till years after, until about 7 years later, properly.
Wow.
I didn't know how to.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think that came down to?
Look, when I lost immediately after, I acted out. I cheated on my partner. I didn't tell anyone. I went on this destructive rampage of I don't know what.
Yeah, wow.
I hurt so many people around me. I lied. It's something that I am not proud of, but I owned it. And I'll never, ever blame what happened to my dad for my actions. They definitely were a part of it, but that's how I dealt with it. And that was a huge wake-up call.
Wow.
And it was something I had to restart again. I don't think for me that was a part of the grief, whether it was the anger and the desperation and the sadness, but to properly remember and grieve came years later through this burpee movement and challenge, where I was able to talk and connect with others that were going through the same thing,
Yeah.
and reach people that had gone through the exact same thing as me, who didn't know how to talk about it, who didn't know what to do, and didn't know that what I was going through was exactly the same as them. So,
Oh man.
yeah, the stages of grief
Yeah.
are they've spanned over years for me, and I've only just realised that
Sure.
over the last few.
And it's so different for everyone. I think,
It's so different for everyone.
and you know,
Yeah.
your vulnerability right now is just going to be resonating with so many people. I'm like, thank you.
I'm like shaking on the
Thank you.
inside.
Far out. Like, honestly, thank you for sharing so
Yeah.
vulnerably. I didn't know that about you.
No.
You know, we only know surface things about so many people in our world. And
Yeah.
just to get down to the deep stuff,
Yeah.
it's massive.
Well, it was just, we were sitting, it was a Lululemon, being an ambassador, they do a lot of connects. So they bring a lot of ambassadors around the state together. And this was one where it was an overnight stay. And they said this was when Lululemon announced their partnership with Movember. So Movember is a foundation for men's mental health and prostate and testicular cancer awareness. So they sat down and they go, guys, we've partnered with Movember, and it's coming up. Does anyone want to be a part of it? There's a lot of run challenges. You can do your own movement. You can do a dare. You know, they said, we'd like you to sit down and have a think if you'd like to be a part of it, and, you know, let us know what you would like to do. And they talked about, you know, what the foundation was. And I was like, I want to do something,
Did you
because
just feel
this
like,
means,
I'm in?
well,
Like-
I'm just like this. My dad died of prostate
Yeah.
cancer. This is for prostate cancer. This
totally.
is something where I can actually connect to. And it's not just some random challenge. I'm not just running just to run. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do something that's horrible and
That's not running.
that's not running. You know how much I love running. I was like, this is what I'll do. And I just said, guys, I'm going to try and do 50 burpees a day for 30 days. And if I can raise $100 a day, that's $3,000.
That's great.
I would love that. That was my goal. That was my target. I wrote it down.
That's amazing.
And Jess, the community leader at the time, who I'm still friends with, who I actually spoke to on the phone on the way down here, she goes, cool, done. Let's do this. Let's
So
talk
good.
about it.
And what happened?
I
that
will
first,
fast.
What happened that first month? Was it 50? Did you go over more? Did you hit
So-
your target?
When was that too? How many years ago?
So that was 2000 and
Pre-COVID, post-COVID?
3 years ago. So
Okay.
2021,
One.
2021, just after coming out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, cool, how am I going to do burpees and make sure that everyone else sees me do burpees? I'm like, I'm going to have to film them.
Perfect.
So I started going around to any place that would allow me to do burpees, in cafes, out the front of restaurants, in shops, in the gym, with my clients, in their homes. And I posted them on social media. I'm just going to fast forward and then we can bring it back. At the end of those 30 days, so I wanted to raise $3,000. I ended up doing over 2,500 burpees for the month, which is way more.
That's way more.
Way more. And I raised over $35,000.
Woohoo! That is
35.
so good.
You-
That's more than 10x.
10x.
We'd already hit 3,000
It's incredible.
before 9 a.m. on the first day.
I love it.
It blew my mind.
People donating online? Or in
Donating
person?
online.
Yeah.
Online.
Donating online just
Oh.
through my Movember space. And it was just, I just started talking about why I was doing it. And that's when I realized, I was like, I'm
There's
not the only
power
one
in the
going through
story.
this.
Yeah.
It was also like, it was an incredibly hard month. And you hear from people that you've never spoken to before, who you don't know, telling you their stories of suicide, you know, their parents passing away, you know, sisters, brothers, best friends, how their uncles have just been diagnosed. Like, it was incredible the stories that you hear.
You probably weren't ready for that.
I was so not ready.
Yeah.
I was so not ready. I didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
I drank a lot throughout the whole thing, which is something that I've only admitted that I've actually said recently. I found that so hard because to take on all of that and to hold space for that, I didn't know. Oh, I didn't know. I couldn't. I don't know how I got through that month.
That's massive.
Movember did help me a lot. They have incredible support
So good.
network that you can call.
They have a helpline.
Yeah, they've got a helpline. And it's not just helping people. It was helping me deal with what I was doing to deal with my grief.
Like, hey, I'm an ambassador. I need to talk to
Yeah,
you.
it was just incredible. And also during that year, it's something that didn't come out until end of last year, was my husband was going through really, really bad depression.
That's right.
And that's something that we couldn't talk about. We didn't know how to navigate either.
Yeah. Were you unaware up until that point, or knew something?
We knew something.
Yeah.
He'd gone through a lot of personal trauma in terms of work and purpose. It was a lot. And if you look back on it now, it's like it makes total sense.
Yeah.
But it's something that you never think that will ever happen to you, right?
Different kind of grief.
Different kind of grief.
Yeah.
And again, that can be a whole nother podcast on that. But I'll never forget. I think it was, we were just over halfway through Movember doing the burpees. We'd hit, I don't know, $15,000. I was losing it. And then a gentleman reached out to me and he goes, Till, here's my number. I'm not a weirdo. Can you give me a call? I would like to donate. And I was like, that would be so amazing. Thank you. I got an anonymous donation for $6,500.
Wow.
And I could only assume it was him. So I called him. I will keep him anonymous. We still are friends to this day, by the way. I still see him everywhere and we always have a chat. Anyway, he called me. He goes, look, Till, I didn't lose my dad, but I lost my sister to suicide when I was very young and I didn't know how to handle it. And seeing you grieve this far down the track, it's helping me realize that that's what I need to do as well.
Totally.
And it just hit me. How many people are going through this that don't even realize that they haven't even grieved. Yeah. And it's something that I get every day with my clients. It's like, I have a client who lost her daughter last year. It was quite public. And it's something where it was just like, oh, I couldn't even imagine losing my daughter. And everyone's like, how is she going? And it's just like, you can't, because what she's going through right now is going to always be there throughout her life in varying degrees. And I'll just, it's just always there. And for people to think that what you're going through is a unique experience, yeah, it is unique for you, but there are so many people out there going through it silently. There are so many people going through it out there that want to talk about it, that need to talk about it, that don't realize that they need to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that was the way that helped me get through it, was by talking about it. And no one is alone. No one.
And how many allies do you have now because you've spoken?
Oh, I can't even. It's not even. It's not even just. It's just listening.
Yeah.
I think, even if you don't have much to say, most of the time people don't actually need you to say anything, right?
Yeah.
They just want.
Just be.
Yeah.
And the same thing with my husband, with what he's going through. I'll never forget when he said to me, he goes, Till, I actually don't need your advice. It's not that I don't appreciate it or love you for it. And I know that you want to give me some advice, but he just goes, I actually just think the best thing for me is to be able to get off my chest what I'm feeling on that day and how I'm going, what I'm going through on that day.
So good.
And that is enough. And that is my biggest takeaway from this whole thing is if you put yourself out there and if you say just one thing, it could just open up something in someone to be able to let go of something that they've been holding on to for so long. So yeah, 3 years down the track, last year I did my final burpee challenge. I don't think I'll be able to do it again because my shoulders are shot. I've actually just taken out life insurance. This is like a random like conversation, but we've just taken out life insurance and I couldn't, my shoulder isn't covered because I know. I can't cover my shoulder because I got bursitis in it from my burpees. So they won't cover my shoulder. So I'm like, for the sake of my other shoulder and the rest of my body, I'm like, I actually can't do burpees anymore.
Yeah, wow.
So I'm going to actually tackle something running, which
There
it is.
You heard it.
it's just going to be so much worse for me. So that's why I'm starting to run. But so I'm just going to ease myself into that. But yeah, it's going to be a whole nother mental challenge.
Oh my God.
Well, there's only two races on the Gold Coast I know of, the half and the full marathon.
It's not going to be in Queensland.
Okay.
It's not going to be in Queensland. Right. No, there's a race in November. I can't even believe I'm going to say this out loud. It's Point to Pinnacle, and I don't know, some of you might have heard of it. It's in Tasmania. Right. And it's a half marathon up Mount Wellington.
That is wild. In November.
I'm sorry, can you see my face?
I'm just saying, I'm struggling to run 5K.
Marathon, Point to Pinnacle.
I've got all the gear and no idea.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, she's not doing a flat marathon. She's
so sorry.
She's going to do it up.
Wow.
Like the tallest mountain, one of the tallest in Tasmania.
Just imagine finishing that though. Imagine finishing that.
Look, it won't all be run. I know that for a fact. Like I'm going to struggle. There's going to be periods, but that's my
awesome.
goal. I would love to get there and do that. And that's something. Yeah, it would be absolutely incredible to be able to do that. And we love Tasmania. It's around my husband's birthday.
Yeah.
I'll take the whole family down. It would be incredibly special. And I think it's actually funny. You know when Ned Brockman did his crazy run across Australia?
Ned. I don't recall the name, but the crazy run.
Oh, he ran nonstop. For how long? For 30 days or something like that?
Man, running is so brutal.
It is so brutal. Anyway, he used this phrase. He goes, I'm getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I remember using that in my first burpee challenge. And it's like, we can do it. We can, and I'll take you back to when I ran last week and that 25-year-old girl saying, I've never been uncomfortable in my life and I want to do something. I want to get out of my comfort zone.
That's great.
And I think that's what I'm going to be striving for within a, safe, sort of, scope.
My gosh.
Because
You've given me all that. I've been telling people since I fell pregnant, I've just missed running. And so right now I'm like, I just want to go for a run.
I just think it's been more for your mental health, right? It's just, I just want to go out and be free.
Well, I'm feeling inspired, but also challenged because it was only this morning I saw Amber, who runs the Grief Gang. She's in the UK.
Yes.
She's just said she's doing the marathon. I don't know if it's this year or not, in London or wherever they do the marathon over there. I'm like, damn, girl, that's a lot of kilometers. And now you're saying you're doing up a mountainside. I'm like, here I am.
No, we talked about doing a 5K. Like, I'm due in April and it's in July. And I was going to do it to support a friend who's a mum of two.
That's doable.
And
5K, yeah.
Yeah, and she's just started running. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not bad at running. It's not. Yeah. So I was like,
do you need to be good? This is the thing. This is the chat that I was having. Like if you compete in a marathon or a tri or a half marathon or just even a 5K or 10K, you are not going to be disqualified if you stop running and walk for a bit.
And we already know you're not going to be the first.
Yeah, we know you're not going to win. You're not going to be top 10. Like,
and
that's
who are you
good.
comparing yourself to? I think there's beautiful things that are happening on social media around running at the moment is that, you know, you see all these little ones putting it out there like, I'm doing all this running and these are my split times. And you're like, is this what I'm supposed to be comparing myself to?
Yeah.
And then I put out on the weekend, you know, I met my mate down and we went for a mum run and we walked and talked. We got lapped, but we had the best time. I hadn't slept that night. I was wearing my eye patches. She's a mother of 4. She goes, Tilly, I got the pelvic floor of a sieve. Like, we're just going to see how this goes. And I'm like, yes, let's just go with it. And we had the best time.
And it's the feeling after.
It's the feeling after.
Yeah.
So you just touched on something, comparison. So I want to know, did you compare yourself to anyone else through your grief?
No, because I think you go through state. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any friends who had lost their parents. I hadn't been through that. I hadn't been a part of that. It wasn't a part of my growing up. And
this was your first big grief?
This was my first big grief.
Other than the divorce.
Yeah, I think I feel like I treated myself like the victim and I tried to use that. Again, I can guarantee you that's going to be something relatable, and it's not a proud thing to say, but it's something where it's just like, hey, I've been through this. Back off, or I can do this because I'm going through this.
I did the same thing. I can totally remember those thoughts of saying, I deserve this.
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Totally.
Or I can, act up, act out.
I've got the right.
I've got the right, exactly. And you just end up hurting and pushing people away. And unless you're willing to own that, which I did in a very public way, and it has shaped me. It has gotten to me a point now where, like, by no means, I'm 37, but I can look at some young girls and I can see what they're doing. And I was just like, you're struggling through something and you're acting up and you feel entitled and you feel like you can do this and you feel like you're going to get away with it. Whatever you're going through, this is going to be a defining moment in your life. And I think I was just so angry for so long.
Sure.
And then I was angry at him for leaving us. You know, my parents weren't meant to separate. They were the parents that everyone were like, no, they were always meant to be together. We were always meant to be a family. I think you go through all of these emotions. Mine were pretty immediate afterwards. Why did I have to see that? Why did I have to go through that? Why am I left with all of this pain and left with nothing? And, there was so much regret and hurt. And then you've just got to be like, what good is this doing to hold on to that?
That's right.
For me to move forward. There isn't, is there?
No. It only hurts you.
It only hurts you more, right? And it doesn't allow you to feel what you need to feel and that process. It's something that I heard recently. Who said it? Someone famous said it, but it pops up on your
Freeman.
reels. I don't know. I think it was Angelina Jolie or someone. It was like, when you're going through something and you're going through hurt, my best piece of advice is to feel it and feel all of it. I think there's something in addition to that is like, you don't know how long you need to feel that and to feel all of it. And it's going to come back when you least expect it.
And there's no problem with the anger.
There isn't.
That's a human emotion.
I can only hope that you've got people around you that will support you through that.
And that you can channel it in the right way without hurting yourself or somebody else.
100, go running. Just go.
Yeah, that'll do it.
I know a lot of people that do, or go and do fitness. That's what helped. That's what helped me. Anger management.
Boxing.
Get a slam ball. Just go do something. Yeah, do something. But But yeah,
Was fitness a part of your life?
massive.
Back then?
Always has.
Yeah,
As I
okay.
said, like Dad would always take me
Yeah.
to, I was always running, high jump, long jump, sprinting, hurdles. That was my
Sure.
jam. He would take me to, a ballet was a massive thing for me too, but he would take me to every sports carnival. He was always there.
Amazing. What a dad.
Yeah. Like, and like, I don't talk about my mum too often, but, you know, she was always there. She did everything for me. But, you know, my dad was such a prominent part of what my personality is.
Sure.
I'm impatient because of him. I hate waiting in lines because of him. I'm outgoing because of him. And I love because of him. And I think, but I'm vulnerable because of my mum.
Yeah.
So I'll forever thank her for that.
And what's mum's name?
Robin. And I think Mum and I are so much alike that we clash, now. And actually this will probably trigger me to a point. It's interesting the relationship that you have if you've lost one parent that you have with the other.
So that changed for you?
Big time.
Yeah.
My mum has held on to so much anger for my dad.
Right.
And it's something where it's like, I don't want to hear you talk down on him every time I see him, even to this day.
What did you feel for your mum when you got the call about dad? What feelings changed for mum?
She was more worried about Angus and I, my brother and I. And I knew that. There was a lot of love that was lost many, many years ago. So it wasn't for my dad. It was the worry that she had for myself and my brother and what we were going through.
But what about for you? So
towards my mum?
Towards your mum. Did anything change there? Did you feel like I should see mum?
It was really hard to talk to. It was really hard to talk to her about it.
Wow.
Because there was just so much hate from her towards him. So to try and talk about good things was just impossible.
Yeah.
So I had to talk to my friends or talk to my brother or just talk to myself and remind myself about those good things because I couldn't talk to anyone else.
And that makes it hard to be around her, doesn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
And
you're like, I can't do this. This isn't good for me.
But a big part of you wants that from your mum.
Oh, totally, right? And then you got to remember, it's like, she had a hard life and it was tough. Like we grew up with a lot and then it was all taken away from us because of a bad business decision. And again, probably something a lot of people can relate to. Yeah. So, you know, they started off as school teachers and we went up tier. And then it was all taken away. And it was hard for my mum. And she was practically a single mum, looking after 2 kids, going to private schools. You know, you go through that whole social thing where it's like, we don't want to take our kids out of school. We don't want to look like we're struggling. Totally. We want the best education in life for them. This is something that I didn't realise until a lot later down the track.
When you became a parent or when you start thinking about where would I send my kids or...
It was a few years. No, this was before being a parent. Okay. But looking at it now,
you're old enough to understand
what was actually going on.
Oh my goodness!
Right.
Just you wait. People will come up to you and just say, "Oh, where are you sending? Where are you sending your daughter? What school?" And I'm just like, I don't know.
And so, was this incident a catalyst for their divorce?
No. Big time. Okay. I think it was just the tip of the iceberg, to be honest.
So I'd love to know about a bit around your parenting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being a mum. I don't actually, do you know Hamish Blake?
Oh, I love
it. Yeah. Okay. So he's got a podcast, How Other Dads Dad. You've tuned in.
I've heard bits. I love him.
He's one of our favorite Australian comedians.
Yeah. And TV host and personality.
And when he's making the cakes for his kids,
you
got to tune into that. It is one of the greatest pieces of raw comedy, relatable comedy to any parent out there, live on Instagram. It's twice a year and it is just fabulous.
So I've never seen it. I've only heard him talk about it.
You need to do it.
Okay.
you need to, yeah.
So he's
I'll
got the
let you know.
podcast, How Other Dads Dad, which
Yeah.
is him talking to other dads about their parenting style and just gleaning from them, and because he loves it.
Yeah.
I'd love to know from you, you're a mum of girls. They didn't get to meet your dad. How do you bring him into
How do you
their
introduce
world?
him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do they know? Is he granddad, grandpa? Is he pop? Like, how do you do that?
It's funny because obviously I live in Brisbane now. My mum still lives in Adelaide. So my girls don't see Nana, my mum, a lot. We bring her up and there's a lot of things that we do together, but they've got a very close relationship with Dimitri's parents, who are Greek. They're Yaya and Papu. So it's always Yaya and Papu. And then Nora, my eldest, is 6, and I'll never forget, we were driving, she was in the car seat. I think she was about 5, I think. So it was recent. She goes, "Mummy, where's your daddy?"
Wow.
And I was like, oh, whoa, yeah, right. This is going to have to talk about this.
She's put it together.
Yeah, like a valid question.
Yeah, she knows where dad's dad is.
Yeah, in the middle of driving, I'm sort of like, I can pull over and turn around. Like,
let's have this chat.
Yeah, well, let's have this chat. Let's have this chat. And how am I going to chat to a 5-year-old about it? And I'm like, darling, you know what? My daddy got sick a long time ago, and he's no longer with us. He died. And he died. How'd he die? I'm like, he got really sick. Where is he? I was like, he's in heaven, darling. What's heaven? And you go through this chat, and it's just like,
I love how blunt the questions
it's so
are.
blunt,
Yeah,
but that's what it is.
Wow.
They don't know any different. They don't know how to be, gentle in the way that these are those questions. And it comes up, and then she'll digress. She'll go, "I want an ice cream." I'm like, "Oh my God."
Let's get ice cream.
Oh my God.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, great segue. So it comes up a lot, and it comes up when I least expect it with the girls. And now Marlo's talking about it. She's 4. She goes, "Mummy, where's your daddy? Your daddy died." Actually, this was last week, actually. Marlo came up to me, got out of the bath, was drying her off. She goes, "Mummy, your daddy died." I was like, "Yeah, he did." "How?" I'm like, "He got really, really sick." And she goes, "What if you get sick and you die?" I'm like, "Oh, great." And then I started losing it, and she goes, "Well, Mummy, why are you sad?" And I was just like, nothing ever prepares you. Nothing ever prepares you for those little things. And it's just like, darling, do you know what? That is why Mummy goes and exercises all the time.
Yeah.
We go out and we do things together, and we eat healthy, and we want to stay
all
well.
our vegetables.
Yeah, you better eat that green thing. You better fucking eat it. I just said to her, I was just like, this is the reason why, Mummy does what she does, is to stay healthy and to stay strong, And yes, one day Mummy will die. And I said that to them. I've said that to both of them.
Yeah. So
My
they know
husband
the
has
reality.
said that too. It is reality. And some may not agree with me on saying that, but, they don't understand it yet. But it is something where it's like, I don't want to, tippy-toe around that. It's like there will be a time in our lives when we're not there with them. But, in the meantime, you are there to enjoy every moment you possibly can. And, I'll talk about my dad all the time. I'll just be like, "Hey, Nora, if Granddad was here, he would be right next to you on the bike, or he'd be running with you, or he'd be at gymnastics and he'd be cheering you on just like he did with me." And she goes, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, he would be so proud of you." And, it's things like that. It's like you don't know what to say, but I'm not going to not say the truth.
To me, that sounds pretty damn good.
And you can agree with it, trust me, in your parenting
Because
life.
we're going to have the same conversations.
You're going to have the same There are times where you will bite your tongue.
Yeah.
And there will be times where people will say, "You can't say this." It's like you can say whatever you feel, because you're drawing on an experience that you don't want any child to go through, right? So how are you best going to help allow them to navigate when it inevitably happens at some point, right?
Yeah.
Wow, this got
Man. Oh,
It's a hard thing to navigate.
I've just got my note. I've just
You're
got my
doing so well
notepad.
talking through it. I'm just gone silent. I'm just dealing
Kaylee's
with myself
out.
over
I
here.
think something, and
Yeah.
again, do you know what? This probably won't hit me until I on the drive back and I actually think and reflect about this. And that's generally when it hits me afterwards. Is that, and then a song will come on.
Oh, yeah.
The song will come on, and then
Do
I'll
Michael
just be
Jackson.
like, I'm gonna put Billy Joel on.
And I'm just gonna feel everything
And I'm
now.
gonna lose it.
Hey, but that's so good too.
How
that
good
you
is that
can.
feeling
Yeah, that's the
afterwards?
best.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
that's the best.
It truly
'Cause
is.
11 years on now, like you said, you don't cry all the time or dwell on it all the time, right?
Yeah,
and
there's
you're
long times between.
and you're someone who didn't necessarily step into your grieving like straight
Until
up.
years later.
So years later. So it hasn't been. So if you said 11
Yeah.
years, what would it have really been that you've been actively kind of grieving? Like what?
3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
Properly. Yeah.
And so that's
You
like,
kind of try and forget it to start with, and you're just angry at life.
So
And
you were
then-
like married by now, and then you started your grief journey. How did your husband deal with that and support you through that?
he's always been amazing. It's funny because when we first got together, there are people that he's lost in his life, but one of his best friends died the year we got married. And that was a huge thing for him. So I think there is that understanding and connection when you lose someone so close on how to manage things, and to manage emotions around certain periods of time. There are days, where you forget and you don't think about them. And then something pops up and you're like, oh, I should have been thinking about them, or I should be thinking about them.
I forgot about my dad on the anniversary of his death one year.
Yeah.
Just one of these
Me
11
too.
years.
Me too.
And we're out rock climbing in like the Glasshouse Mountains. We're like strapping into rocks, harnesses on, and my phone rings and it's Mum. And I'm like, oh, it's the anniversary of Dad's death. I haven't sent a text, made a call. And I said, hey, Mum, I know why you're calling. I've forgotten. And it's just, but that's just, you were there, hey?
I think so.
Yeah, it's like,
and that's
it happens.
okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Because you remember them, you love them.
100%. Do you think?
You
Do you think he'd be wanting you to do what you love doing?
Yeah.
It's something where you can't feel guilt.
Yeah, you can't be hard on yourself for that.
No, you can't.
One
But
thing.
those moments. Do you know my biggest trigger? Actually, I was telling this to someone the other day. It's like when you're in Woolies or Coles, like Coles Radio, they play the old school songs, and you're in the middle of the cleaning aisle, and there's a song that comes on and just reminds you of it reminds me of my dad. And do you know how many times I've burst out crying in the middle of Coles to Coles Radio? And it's just gotten me.
You're in the pasta section,
Yes,
and you're like,
yes. And I'm just like,
people are like,
keep
"Man,
it together.
She's got a problem with carbs.
Keep it together. Like the tissues. Right? Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's
I
those,
don't know
and
which
it's
sauce
just
to pick.
right. I know. And I've just learned you got to lean in. You do have to lean into those moments.
On Coles, our local Coles, where no, totally related. So where Mum lives, like the local Coles there, that's where we grew up shopping and so forth. My brother ended up working and then managing Coles and so forth. It's just, and then there was a guy in there that looked like my dad, that a customer, and so we would be sometimes together, sometimes separate, and you'd see them. When you just see someone walk around an aisle or like just leave the aisle, and you're like, I was like, was that Dad? And all of us had seen this guy a couple of times and couldn't work out if it was like comforting or like the most sad. It was like this balance of like, I feel so comforted. It's like Dad's right here. And then also he's not. But
do you feel like, have you, like that moment, do you feel that there have been certain things that have come into your life that is because of them as a reflection, or
heaps of things.
Yeah.
It's actually, honestly, I was just
crazy.
thinking about that then when you told me. It's like this gentleman that's come into my life in the last couple of years who's actually helped me silently a lot. And his name's Jeff. Go figure.
Wow.
Through the gym. He's a man of few words, but it's something where I just feel like I'm silently supported by him. And it's something where he's actually been a huge supporter of my Movember, especially last year. And we touched on it the year before. And it's something where I'm just like, wow, I feel like there are these things that have meant to
100%.
come, that have come into my life to remind me of him in a certain way. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
And
I feel
also
like
because if your dad was here, he'd be fully supporting you.
100%. When he'd be like, Till, keep going.
Yeah.
That's something he always used to say to me. I was just like, Dad, this is what's happening. You know, shit's happening. And he goes, do you know what? Just it'll be all right. He was always the one to say it'll be all right. It will.
How do you reconcile or balance the fact that, you know, it's only because of your dad's death that you are doing what you are now for Movember and so forth, right?
It's funny that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, he'd be proud of you, but if he was here, you wouldn't be doing that. You know, we wouldn't have this podcast. If our parents were here, we wouldn't be doing it. Like,
crazy.
So, like, yeah, have you thought through that? Like, do you?
I feel like if it wasn't that, it'd be another challenge. He was my number one fan, and he was always pushing me, not in a bad way, but he was always pushing me to do more,
That's great.
to be stronger.
Yeah.
And as I said, if it wasn't the burpees, it would have been something else. I feel like I'm a lucky one where I've been able to find my purpose through my own grief and my own struggles.
That's wild. You just said you feel like you're the lucky one.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I am, because I'm able to celebrate and remember him through something that it touches so many people.
So you feel like
he's bigger than you.
Yeah, you feel like he's bigger than he could have been, in a way.
Always,
Like, yeah.
because he was that man. He was larger than life.
Yeah.
And at the end, he just didn't want anything to happen around him. And it's like, no, I'm celebrating the man that I know, that I grew up with, that helped shaped me, that I'll remember all the beautiful things.
That deserved a celebration.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's what resonated.
It's beautiful.
And I'll forever do something in honor of that.
So cool.
And so, yeah, while I'll go back, it's why we might not have a gravestone or a plaque or something. This is my tribute and my honor to my dad.
That's great.
In being able to help others. And I don't know of anything more everlasting than that, than a conversation.
Yeah.
To start another one. So...
Oh, Till,
Yeah.
thanks for being so raw.
This has been the best.
I'm not drinking at the moment, so I'm just like, woo. Nah, that was beautiful.
I gotta get a triple shot after this and listen to some Billy Joel.
I won't. I'll probably just sit there and tell my girls about it.
That's
Hey,
beautiful, hey?
Yeah.
I'd love to ask you one thing. Just in wrapping up, we have a lot of people who new on this journey and just going, how do I remember them? How do I, how do I do this? So I'd love to know, like you've already just touched on it a little bit, but yeah, what are the things you do to specifically remember your dad and honor him and like live out his legacy?
Talk about them, because there'll be a moment where you forget their laugh and you forget these little things that made them them. And I think the more I talk about it, the more he stays alive in my mind. I'll never forget his laugh. He had the best moustache you have ever seen. And I know,
That's so
it's the
fitting.
best. Like his
I love
40th
that.
birthday was a moustache cake. Like it's just the most epic mo.
great.
And while there were so many things that he did wrong, I'm not going to, there were some really tough times. I'm going to choose to remember the good and to pass that on to my girls because he did shape who I am today. And I know that everyone has so many complicated relationships with their parents, but, you know, at the end of the day, they are our parents. And we wouldn't be here without them. So let's choose to remember the beautiful times, the good, in order to honor them. I don't have many photos of Dad. I've only got photos of when I was a baby with him until I was about probably 10 or 13. And then those photos, it's probably only
Few and far
small
between.
window, yeah.
So there's a huge gap. So there's a huge gap in my life with him that I don't have memories of. So I have to keep them alive in my mind.
What's the fondest memory you've got with your dad?
Oh, so many. Fishing.
So good.
I'll never forget going to Kangaroo Island when we were, I think it was like 10 or I don't know, around then. I was very early teens, and we would just spend the whole day fishing, and we caught 30 whiting. And for so many people, fishing is boring. And I'm like, to this day, we go fishing with our girls, and I'm like, it is the most beautiful thing.
It's quality time.
It's quality time. You just sit there and you ponder and you talk, or you don't talk, but you are there in the presence of someone. And it's something that we're actually trying to teach our girls. And we bought them fishing rods, and we go fishing.
Oh, that's epic.
And I remember the first time we went fishing with them, I lost it. And Tim's like, you were right. And I was like, I just remember doing this with my dad. So that's it. Find your thing. Find your thing.
So you don't have to start a movement. You don't have to do a billion burpees and wreck your shoulder and not get life insurance for it.
Create a new memory in honor of them,
that is so
of
cool.
something that they did with you, and make it yours.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like she's going to be playing cricket.
Oh,
and driving fast cars.
Where's my input in this?
Okay, well, you can add your input, but that's...
I love it.
What a...
I just want to mention that the last episode that we listened to of Hamish with Husey, and they were speaking about fishing.
I'll get out.
No, serious.
Fishing is great.
You need to listen to that episode.
I will. I actually will. I'll listen to it on the way home. Actually,
so good.
Wow.
I mean, I don't get it. I wasn't brought up with it, so I'm one of those people who's like, oh, what would you do? But they were talking about it's quality time, and you just stand and you can be contemplative. And
you don't need to talk.
Whether you're with someone or whether you're alone,
exactly. You don't need to talk. It's just being there with someone in
and
the presence of something and
enjoy.
enjoying.
Oh, that's something.
Yeah, and being present. I think that's something that's so hard to do in this day and age, is being present. You can't be more present than going fishing. And then moment you get that fish, you're like, this is the best thing.
I mean, I love being on the water and I love boats and stuff.
Yes.
So
I reckon that's a record. 31
fish, whiting.
That is
was
insane.
the best.
No
and we
wonder
tried
you
to
liked
fill
it
them in
after
a
that.
stick. I just like catching the fish, and then I don't like doing the dirty.
Oh, yeah.
The
I think
filleting
that's
and the
probably
gutting and the scaling, and they're like eating it. So
I'm not good with texture and that sort of stuff. So
texture,
especially seafood.
That's
textures.
all right. Let's just stick to the moment part of it. Yeah.
Oh,
wow,
my
I
goodness.
haven't. So there's some things that I just said in that I haven't spoken about in like a decade.
You know
guys.
what? That's really cool.
That's really
No,
cool.
thank you. What you have created here is the amount of times I've said that I'm talking about on a grief podcast, and people are like, oh wow. It's like, yeah, this is something that's so prevalent in everyone's lives.
Mm-hmm.
You two are beautiful. You truly
Takes
are.
one to know one.
Yeah.
Oh no, mate. I think it's just creating a community is not the easiest thing, but to be vulnerable is one of the hardest things to do. So, and your vulnerability has created all of this. So, thank you.
Oh, thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here.
My goodness. Honestly, I couldn't have imagined this conversation going any better.
Neither. I was looking for the tissues like 10 minutes in. I was
Oh,
like, this is going to happen. I was like, where
guys,
are
I was
they?
waiting
I
for
just
their
couldn't
notes.
see
They were going to send me some notes, and they didn't send me any. I was just like,
we don't
just
need
gonna
notes from
wing
this
it.
girl. Yeah.
It was perfect.
Oh,
Thank you.
Tilly, thank you very much. You're amazing. Whew. Okay, so people need to connect with you. I'm just putting all the links
love
below. I'm going to put I'm going to get your link for TCF, the app.
Oh,
And if people want to get their butt in shape or just like cry
it's
it
so
out,
fun.
sweat it out, they can join that.
It's really fun. It's real. It's relatable. I always say on Instagram, I'm like, guys, I'm always here to have a chat. I think there's so many people that follow people for so long and then they feel like a stalker if they message them out of the blue. It's like, nah, I'm not that person. It's like, just let's have a chat.
We're here for it.
We're here for it. 100%. That's
Very
what this
cool.
is all about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, love
You're
it.
the best. So, oh man, if I would love to know for everyone listening what you got out of this. If you're on YouTube, drop us a comment. If you're listening on the podcast, I still don't know if you can. I mean, you
Add a
can.
comment?
No, you can. There is a way on Spotify that there's a question, but you've got to like just, if you're in the episode, go searching for it and you'll find it. And we'll read that. We've had plenty of YouTube comments. We've had one Spotify comment.
Okay.
Right.
Let's get talking.
yeah.
Otherwise, they can email us.
Yep.
Or send us a message on Insta.
Totally.
There's so many ways you can hunt down a person.
Yeah, seriously. Our address is. But leave Tilly some love below wherever you're listening from, or give us a rating, and we'll just pretend that that's because of Tilly, like, because it is, but we won't know. You can leave us a rating and just tell us how good Tilly's episode is. Do that.
I'll be leaving one. Guys, you're not alone. You're not alone.
No, you're not. And if you found this helpful, like, we'd love you to share it with someone else who would also find it helpful. That would just be the best, because we can't do this without you guys.
Pay it forward.
Cool, gang. Till
Thank
next
you
time.
so much.
Yeah.
Tilly,
Thanks, Till.
big love.
Thank you so
Everyone
much.
out there, sending you lots of love.
Yeah,
Big
we love
hugs.
you guys. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.